So, usually in my super reviews, I usually take a lot of notes and, you know, write all of my notes together on an outline so that when I go to record, I can take a little glance at, you know, a lot of the key points that I remembered watching, and I could pretty much review it as I talk to you guys. But I feel like this episode, because of how many things happened and because of how long my outline was, I feel like I should just talk to you guys. So, no outline this week. I'm just gonna speak to you guys using my memory and my voice. So let's go. So, episode 66 of Dragon Ball Super. The episode starts off with Goku, obviously from last week, as we see him, you know, getting into this huge beam clash against Zamasu, where he's pretty much trying to protect, you know, Vegeta, Trunks, and planet Earth itself. And the interesting thing is that Goku actually manages to push him back. Now, I was very shocked about this because I said, you know, in my predictions from last week that I thought that there was absolutely no way that Goku would have been able to completely push Zamasu back. That was something that I thought was impossible, because you gotta think, it took everything from both Vegeta and Trunks with the father-son Gallic Gun to, you know, pretty much push Zamasu back, and it didn't do anything to him. So it's like, to think that Goku could do that by himself, I thought that was impossible. But somehow Goku reaches into his hidden power, at least, and pushes Zamasu back. And then we see that he's pretty much drained afterwards, and Zamasu starts going haywire. Gowasu pretty much explains that, in essence, the problem with Zamasu was that he's pretty much the fusion of a mortal and an immortal at the same time. That's why he pretty much was like, you know, two-faced purple, for crying out loud. You know, half his face was green, half his face was purple, because the mix wasn't exactly balanced, because that's not the way it's supposed to be. So it was kind of weird looking at Zamasu. Like, he had like this freaking incredible Hulk arm. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this was probably the weirdest fucking looking villain I've ever seen in Dragon Ball. Like, I've never seen a villain that looked this weird, especially Zamasu in this form. How he looks like half Bio Broly and like half Zamasu at the same time. It was fucking weird. And then there was this weird ass scene where you see him with like his hand on his head, like super fucking huge and purple. That was a very weird scene. But besides his appearance, guys, you know, Zamasu's going crazy. He's pretty much talking a lot of shit. And, you know, Goku and Vegeta, once again, Goku realizes that the only way that they could stop Zamasu, because now, you know, the whole immortal and mortal thing is not mixing, is that if they find a way to unleash a lot of power against him. And Gowasu suggested, you know, that, you know, obviously the Supreme Kai would give the earrings. They put the earrings on and they fuse into Vegito. Now, the fusion didn't really feel very, I guess you can say, it didn't feel like a fusion of a Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. Like, it just happened so quick. Like, for example, when Goku Black and Zamasu fused in a few episodes ago, like, you felt a very holy feel towards it. And, you know, when you look at how Goku and Vegeta fused in the Buu Saga when they were fighting against Super Buu, that felt kind of weird. Like, they added a lot more, I guess you could say, effects to the transformation, but it's like, hey guys, here's Vegito. So I felt that was a little underwhelming, but he quickly powers up into a Super Saiyan Blue. Everybody saw this coming, and then he and Zamasu start to fight. Now, there's some interesting things I noticed here. It seemed like Vegito was getting the upper hand on him, and everybody saw this coming. So, in terms of power, obviously Vegeta was, you know, obviously getting a lot of hits towards him, but the action sequences were incredible. Like, they were so fast. I don't think I've seen a Dragon Ball episode where the action sequences seemed this quick. Like, the frames were like off. It seemed like this was going at like 100 frames per second. It was insane how quick this episode was going. And Vegeto's pretty much mopping the floor with Zamasu. Zamasu's going nuts. And then, you know, they continue to fight. Vegito uses a final Kamehameha. And I thought that was just incredible. You know, obviously a lot of the video games have shown a lot of this stuff. It seems like Zamasu's pretty much all fucked up. But in contrast to seeing all this stuff, we see a scene where the little girl Maki, you know, had Trunks' sword. And she goes towards Trunks and she pretty much, you know, tells him, you know, like she believes in him and all this stuff. And, you know, Trunks pretty much feels like it's his duty to do something about this whole situation. So, the weird thing about all of this, guys, is that it's like Trunks got all of this, I guess you could say, this motivation out of nowhere. I felt it was a little anticlimactic, because the reason it feels anticlimactic is because if you think about it, the fact that Trunks all of a sudden feels this duty to go fight against Zamasu, whereas Vegito, who should in theory be a lot stronger than Trunks, is kind of already doing his own thing. It's like, doesn't it kind of feel like you will get in the way? And the weird thing about all this is that Maki gives Trunks his sword like halfway broken, and Trunks becomes fucking Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho. He literally takes the broken sword and makes it like a spirit sword. And guys, obviously Yu Yu Hakusho is a very popular anime in Japan. I would not be surprised if they got that idea from it. I would not be shocked. It was the same fucking color, for crying out loud. It was yellow, and eventually it becomes a blue lightsaber, but I'll talk a little bit more of that later. So Trunks flies over. Vegito seems like he's doing very, very, very well in the fight, but the fusion runs out. They get knocked out. Or not so much knocked out, but they're pretty much in trouble. And Gowasu and the Supreme Kai are pretty much talking about the fact that, you know, it's weird how the fusion, in some way or another, ran out because they didn't have enough power to sustain the fusion. I had a huge problem with this, guys. The reason being is, although the action was great, it was like, first of all, using a Potara fusion, it's supposed to be permanent. And Dragon Ball Super is contradicting itself. And I'm not ranting on the episode, I'm just criticizing it honestly. Dragon Ball Super shows this because we saw before how the Supreme Kai and Kibito pretty much became two different people when in fact they were fused for a long time. So unless you're telling me that these specific airings that Vegito used were different from the regular Potara airings, and this one only lasts an hour, I can understand that, but that was weird. Like, it's supposed to be a permanent fusion. You know, and I understand that now this adds headcanon because now some people can say, well, that's why Vegito diffused back in the Buu Saga when in fact all of this stuff never happened. It's supposed to be a permanent fusion. I felt that was kind of weird. But, you know, Goku and Vegeta get into trouble. Trunks comes to the rescue. And Trunks, using his spirit sword, gets into a fucking lightsaber clash where Zamasu's pretty much Mace Windu with his purple fucking psionic blade. And Trunks is using like his yellow lightsaber. And he's fighting him and he's doing alright. But somehow the weirdest fucking shit I've ever seen in the history of Dragon Ball. Guys, you are talking to a guy who has watched Dragon Ball, who has watched Dragon Ball Z, who has watched Dragon Ball GT, who has watched Dragon Ball Super, and I have never seen something so random and crazy in my fucking life watching this series. It's like Trunks somehow used like a spirit bomb sword, and like everybody's energy somehow went towards Trunks. I can understand how Vegeta and Goku pretty much donated their energy towards Trunks. But somehow Trunks gets this magical godlike transformation out of nowhere. And he starts getting into this amazing looking sequence. Regardless of if the sequence makes any fucking sense, that's different. Trunks gets into this sequence with Zamasu. They're fighting. He's slashing the shit out of him. And here is where we get to the climax. This nigga, Trunks. And yes, guys, I gotta be realistic in this review. I can't review this review like regular Qaaman, guys. I gotta be Quinn in this review. This nigga took his sword and made Zamasu into sliced fucking salami. He cut this nigga in half up to his head. I lost it. If you guys saw me on Twitter, I said I am trying to put in words what the fuck I just saw. I have no idea what the hell happened in that sequence, guys. I saw this at least 5 or 6 times. Trunks somehow got the energy of everyone on Earth, even though it didn't seem like they were voluntarily giving them energy. He somehow gets it like as if it was a spirit bomb sword and slices Zamasu in half. I lost it. I couldn't believe what I fucking saw. The fact that you saw his sword just like glowing and it became like this rainbow color. I mean, it was a beautiful sequence. Like, it was just a beautiful sequence. Regardless of if the episode has its problems, it was a beautiful sequence. So, with all of that stuff, you know, out of the way, guys, like I said, this is not an organized review. This is just me talking here. The episode is very mixed. It had its problems. I felt that it was underwhelming that Vegito really was only in the episode for about 10 minutes, whereas people were waiting for this whole Vegito fight for a while. I felt that was a little bit of a bummer. I definitely feel if you're going to put Vegito in the show, you're going to put him into it more. But I do feel at the same time that although Vegito was underwhelming, Trunks' amazing sequence, regardless of the fact that to me it doesn't make any fucking sense how it happened, it was incredible. Like, I'm at a loss for words. It's like you can't explain something, but you're so mesmerized by it that you kind of have to just fucking accept it. And am I right to do that? I don't know. But either way, guys, I thought that this episode was incredible in terms of the action sequences and in terms of the scenes themselves. But in terms of making any sense, I'm at a complete loss for words in a negative way. I have no idea what the fuck happened, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't understand what the hell happened. It seemed like the Vegito thing was just a ploy to like make him eat up time in the episode for Trunks' scene. I feel like although Trunks had an awesome moment, I'm trying to understand how all of this made sense. I said before, I don't know how Zamasu learned how to do all of those attacks with the Halo from the previous episode. I also feel like Zamasu's half purple, half green transformation should have more of an effect on him. Yes, I understand the effects of being immortal versus mortal, you know, was obviously shown because Goku did some damage on him. But to me, it's just weird. So, with everything, guys, I'm gonna probably have to give this episode 3 stars. I thought it was incredible in some ways, but at the same time, I'm also like so confused, and I understand it's fiction, but it's like, I don't know what the hell happened. So with everything else said, guys, for my predictions, I'm just gonna say this, guys. I'm kind of confused as well because it's like Trunks is somehow gonna leave or he's gonna die somehow. We don't know what's gonna happen for sure. There's some rumored Dragon Ball Super spoilers that are coming out about what's happening. Let's just wait and see what happens. But in terms of my prediction, guys, I'm almost certain that Zamasu's not dead, because they wouldn't have finished the episode on a climax like that where you see Zamasu being cut in half if he was just gonna die that way. It just doesn't make any sense. You're not gonna show a guy being cut in half to kill him off. Even though this would have been a perfect way to kill him off, it doesn't feel like an enemy is defeated. Every time in Dragon Ball where a major villain is defeated, you have a certain feeling of closure, and the episode didn't have it. But then again, you never know, because look at what happened, you know, when Trunks killed Frieza in Dragon Ball Z. He sliced Frieza in half, and Frieza was still being cut in half into the next episode, and he was finished off. So I could be completely wrong. That's just my sense, guys, but I definitely do think that Trunks is not going to die. I just think he's probably going to have to leave. And I like the fact that I'm seeing Zeno into this, because I'm assuming Goku's going to press that button, and Zeno should have finally showed up at least once in this entire arc, except for that time when he gave Goku the button. So guys, with everything said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my review and my preview for Dragon Ball Super episodes 66 and 67. So please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys. And boy, was I thinking about so many different thumbnails for today. Mixed opinions.